Sunday, we get our service started by ringing the bell, and I don't know if you noticed. Do you know how many we ring it at the start of the service? 3. That's right, 3 times. Do you know why? It isn't because folks won't stop talking until you really... So the first time we ring the bell is to bring your attention, to pull our eyes toward the center. The second ring brings our attention to ourselves, being mindful of our bodies and presence. And the third ring invites us to move inward, deeper toward our spiritual center, toward the holy. One of the things about a UU congregation is that we have, shall we say, a nebulous theology. Our principles are more about how we find our truth than what we should believe. And so as a result, it seems natural for us from time to time to ask, what do I believe? What do you believe? We have a coming of age ritual that is all about writing down a statement of belief. And many of us have at one time or another written one of those spiritual autobiographies or theological statements. What do you believe? In doing this kind of introspection, the question is often, do you believe in God? And I get frustrated by that question. It's probably because my answer, no, really doesn't tell you very much about me. And I find subtler answers either to be some commentary on belief, like do we really know anything, or maybe some other kind of hair-splitting logical knot. And this doesn't help me know much more about you or what is happening inside you. So it seemed to me that a better question is, what do you believe in? If not God, then what is holy? What is sacred in your life? And so my hope is that in taking some time to consider this question, we can learn about ourselves and each other. So I started out by posing this question a few Sundays ago during our Action Sunday service, and we had a small group of folks here in the sanctuary on Zoom. And so I have some of their responses here to the question of what is holy that I would gonna kind of share with you this morning. Now, of course, this sort of question leads to more questions. What does it mean for something to be holy? And I don't want to have a pat definition. I know what I'm talking about, but it's hard to put into words. It kind of forms a loop, right? Something is holy because I believe it to be holy. Or more simply, we understand what is holy by looking for examples of what is considered holy, and then we check in to see whether that rings true or not. What is it that we call holy? Now, when I did this, I expected a lot of folks to tell me that nothing is holy. I made that joke already, I think. And now, that is a perfectly reasonable response, and I can see the appeal. It's cool, clean, and clear, right? But I think there's more to it than that. There's more to my own experience of the world. I feel like we can look at ourselves and see that there are things that affect us deeper. We do have ways that we interact with the spiritual. And well, maybe the fact that you showed up here this morning reveals that you may have something like that. But like I said, I didn't get that answer too much. In fact, I heard the polar opposite more often. Everything is sacred. Choices and behavior is selective and personal. Peter Mayer, everything is holy now. I looked up the lyrics to that song, and he writes, "When I was a boy each week, on Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest, and he would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now." And Mayer goes on to talk about how he sees miracles all around him in the ordinary. So, but on the other hand, I did some reading on what various traditions call holy. And I found one story repeated many times on many different websites, but honestly, these were all in a very Christian context. The story was that in the Old Testament, the Hebrew word used to mean holy was kodesh. And this had a literal meaning of set apart. So an object is holy when it is separated from a common use and committed only to a religious purpose. A holy shrine or a book that is placed in an altar is made holy in being put aside. The child watches the priest saying the holy word and consecrating the holy bread, setting that aside. Maybe we, like Peter Mayer, have grown out of that need for things like to see that, but I'm guessing not entirely. I saw an article in the Navajo Times about a controversy regarding the Rainbow Bridge formation in Powell, Utah. I think you can see an image of that formation on the screens. It's a remote formation that is held sacred by the Navajo, Paiute, Ute, and Hopi people. There are traditions that it forms a gate which allows connections to ancestors, natural or spiritual forces. And it had been a traditional destination for pilgrims hiking up into the mountains to leave offerings and prayers. The controversy started because the flooding of Lake Powell made it possible to get very close to the area by boat. And so you can understand that the presence of tourists kind of ruined the vibe. Outsiders brought disrespect for the holy and apparently outright harassment. A space that had been set apart and holy now collided with the rest of the world. A location that connects us with the spiritual, that is the right spot for ceremony. It should be the result of a 14-mile hike up through the mountains. A journey that is physical, but also gives a person a chance to move inward. And this might be spoiled if it becomes a $75 motorboat rental instead. This kind of holy place set apart resonated with many of us. I heard, "Holy is nature. My spiritual sanctuary is being out in nature." "Walk in woods, cuddling with my cats." There's a line. Those aren't happening at the same time, I don't think. We can understand moving out of what may seem an unnatural, constructed world into a space that speaks to us deeply, a natural space, a holy space, beyond the ordinary. There's more to being holy, though, than just being set apart. In reading about holiness in the Islamic tradition, the scholarship attributes the greatest status of holy to the words of Muhammad in the Quran, the holy book, and to the holy mosques in Mecca and Medina. These are said to be the holiest places because they are places that are explicitly part of the story of Muhammad. These are all connected to God through the life of the prophet. And each site, all of the other holy sites that were referred to and that are revered in this tradition, has an accompanying documentation of its connection to the source of all things holy. And in this context, to be holy means to be connected to God, to be a path to the spiritual. So how do we translate that into you? Actually, if I'm asked, do you believe in God, I get excited because I believe in universal energy. And energy, maybe an established religion would call it spirit, but this energy connects me to the universe, and perhaps that is my holy. So our holy is our connection to the universe. I'm imagining that web of strings connecting our inner self to an altar or a forest clearing or ocean waves. And that string then goes into the distance and connects us to something else, right? The universe, the earth, nature, our experience of being alive within the living universe. I really like that. Our experience of being alive within the living universe. Connections to something more. Relationship, contemplation, interaction, service, social issues, humanity, meaning, purpose, self, other nature, the sacred, everything is a miracle, song, silence, sense of awe. This is our sense of the sacred or spiritual, our sense of not being not only within ourselves, but also in the presence of something awesome. So it seems these holy things are sacred because they can bring us into connection with the universe, meaning, joy, community. So, what are you looking for? Where should we look for these connections? Now, one thing I thought I might hear more of is we might be fascinated by holy people. Prophets like Jesus or Muhammad, spiritual leaders like the Dalai Lama or Gandhi, exemplars of the good life like Mother Teresa or Saint Francis, or inspired teachers like Thomas Merton or Thich Nhat Hanh. We look to them for wisdom and as examples. But that didn't seem to be a popular answer among us here. We are a little too suspicious of their authority. One of my respondents wrote, "Holy, anointed by God feels bogus to me. There's a continuum from bad, evil to good, and most of us inherently want to be good, but I don't see a sharp dividing line at 98%. You don't get to a point where your sermons are so good that you become holy, right? Our principle that each of us has inherent worth and dignity leads us to reject the idea of individuals having supernatural worth. We believe that we all count, and so it feels wrong to set any one person up on a pedestal as holy. So that leaves many of us drawn to more abstract pathways to the sacred. My answer was song in silence, because that was what I thought of as my path to be connected more deeply. The moment when I'm singing with all of you and I can feel the music flowing through us, joining us all together. Or maybe I'm sitting alone in silence and finding there that there may be deeper truths. As Rumi said, to see the moon that cannot be seen, turn your eyes inward and look at yourself in silence. In fact, one of our responses was reading Rumi, moments of compassion, surreal jokes, dreams. We are looking to step outside of ourselves and be in the presence of the spiritual, and we are moved by beauty, an emotional connection with an artist, or just some kind of idea. We are looking to the holy to give us a new understanding of ourselves. Holy, Holy, Holy by Mahalia Jackson, heard in a Baptist youth group in Denmark. Can you see that? Can you imagine what that would feel like, hearing the Spirit in her voice? That's what I mean by holy. Okay, I know. Universalists believe that we are all saved and that we all have our own connection and path to the holy, and it doesn't matter so much what you believe as much as what you do. It is our actions that are holy. Holy for me, democratic choice of governmental actions and policies, leaving this world a better place for my children and grandchildren to enjoy. Or, as it was summed up, my relationship to Live Oak, the nation, and the world, and the universe through daily interaction, contemplation, and service. For many of us, preparing dinner at Transition House is our sacrament. Writing postcards to the incarcerated is our connection to something bigger than ourselves. Now, for you, it might take some expansion of your understanding, but making the world a better place is holy. What did I miss? What is holy for you? I know that all of you have come here this morning for a reason. And I hope that reason includes a need for connection to each other and maybe to something else. I don't know if you think that this time that we have set apart makes it holy. No one on any of my cards said that the chalice was holy. But we have taken this time outside of our routines and concerns with thoughtfulness and mindfulness. It brings us together in our search. A UU sermon has always more questions than it has answers, And the questions may be more important, but we're getting somewhere, I hope. My hope for you is that in thinking about this, you see that spot that you are reaching out to. Something out here or in there worth connecting to. Something with enough power or beauty or magnificence. And if you don't know what that is, my advice is go ahead, look around for it. We're going to join you on that search. Peace. Namaste.